Aloha, good morning. Welcome to Kahu's Corner this Monday morning, beginning of the work week. I think we're on the last full week of April, and kind of getting into May sometime around next week. But again, how fast time goes by. But yeah, we started in a brand new week. Hope everybody had a blessed weekend. Hope you enjoyed yourself and whatever you was doing, spending time with family or just chilling out, hanging out. But thank you for joining me this morning. I wanted to talk a little bit about in the book of James. He talks about the tongue, the deceitfulness of the tongue, and how we can praise our Lord and God 1 second, and in the next second, we cursing, we just saying unwholesome things, and I think everybody goes through that whole deal. It's a daily challenge, because you don't know what's gonna happen when you get out there. You might, have an encounter at some grocery store, in a bank, on the freeway, and sometimes our what we feel controls what we say. And I think that's very true. You can build up, encourage, or you can tear down um, and undermine, I would say. Even Solomon talks about that um, in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything, a time to build up, a time to tear down. But in these days, you just watch the news and you see how much crime we have, especially in killings and all kinds of domestic violence. Um, what we say is a big part of it in domestic violence. Um, but Paul, when he writes all of these letters to the churches, even to certain people like Titus and Timothy, he always comes across the subject of what we say, because it plays an important part. That's the number one way of communication, is talking. Um, and like I said, it can build up a church, or it can tear down a church. It can make your work good, or it can make your work bad, or even in family homes. I mean, just it's a bad deal. You can think something of someone, but if you pray to God in that moment and just say, let whatever comes out of my mouth be wholesome, be a way of building up. Or you can be honest with somebody and just say, hey, not this, I don't know about this, but if you talk in a proper way, then you might not agree on something, or you might solve something. But even when you don't agree on something, you don't have to use foul language or whatever. It just makes everything worse. And Paul had brought that up you know, um, with every church, even in First Corinthians, Kahu taking us through the church in Corinth. There wasn't unity in the church. Everybody had their own agenda, and part of that too is what you say, what you believe in. You know, if you say something the wrong way, people take it the wrong way, and things just get blown way out of proportion, I would say. But yeah, and we gotta communicate with different people at different times. It might be a short conversation or it might be a long one. Every single day, we have to do it. So what we think about saying, we really gotta think before we say it, um, because the outcome. Sometimes you might be able to get it back, and sometimes you won't. You won't get it back, and the repair to that relationship, or whatever it may be, might take a lifetime. So yeah, just be careful. And Paul was dealing with this with the believers in the church, and we can just look at the church at Ephesus, and this is what he wrote in chapter 4, verse 29. talking to the believers now in the church. He says, "Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification or building up according to the need of the moment." Why? So that it will give grace to those who hear. Um, Pretty simple, but it's hard to do. Like I said, if if whatever you feel in your heart is what you want to say to a person, you just gotta think before you say it. You can be honest about something or someone and talk in a real good way, or you can just let everything fly, and then whatever happens after that, you're gonna have to accept. But God is telling us that, hey, take some time before you approach a person and think things over before you say something. And if somebody's having a bad day, we've all been there on both sides. If you had a bad day, somebody comes along and builds you up, edifies you, that's a good thing. And no matter whose fault it was, Jesus wants us to go back and get the problem solved. And if you say you peace and you still not coming to agreement, hey, at least you do your due diligence in what Christ asks you to do. Um, but yeah, there is a biblical way of just talking. And Paul says it in Ephesus, just edifying, building up. Let everything from your mouth be wholesome, um, so that you give grace to the person who hears your words. Nobody likes to get talked down to. Nobody likes to get yelled at. But if you do it in the correct way, you can get a lot of things accomplished, both in your homes, at your work, at your church, for sure. And that way people can see. It's like, hey, these guys, they're building up, they edifying, they're unifying each other by what we say. And if not, it's just going to be a bad deal all the way around. So I hope as you go through your week, when God puts you, or when you're in that situation where you just want to let everything fly, just take that few seconds and tell God, hey, God, I'm not feeling it, but please, please give me the words to say. Say it in a correct manner and take control of this conversation. Let me be a light for you. Let me say the things you want me to say and avoid my flesh and letting words pop out of my mouth that can make things worse. So I pray that for you this week. Be safe out on the roads. Rain's supposed to be on and off throughout the week. So have a blessed day. Aloha.